It's my birthday. Today is February 19th, and the Fanny Farmer kitchen cabinet has kindly provided a decadent sounding dessert as the featured recipe of the day. Frangipan cream pie. Doesn't that sound good? As always with these videos, I have never cooked this recipe before, and I really have no idea how it's going to turn out. So let's get cooking. To make Frangipan cream pie, you will need pie crust, powdered sugar, flour, eggs, salt, milk, butter, macaroons, vanilla, lemon extract. To start, we cut 3 circular pieces of paste, that is pie crust, 9 inches in diameter. Place on a tin sheet. I'm using a silicone mat rather than greasing it, and prick with a fork and bake. This is store-bought pie crust. I have neither the time nor the kitchen staff to make my own pie crust for this recipe. Pricking it with a fork keeps it from puffing up while baking. Fanny Farmer doesn't give us any instructions other than bake. I'm putting this in a 450-degree oven for 10 minutes. And now we make the Frangipan cream. But what exactly is Frangipan? It is an almond-flavored custard used as a filling, usually in tarts. Mix together powdered sugar and flour. If I were not following this recipe exactly, I would probably use cornstarch instead of the flour. Then add the yolks of 3 eggs, plus 1 whole egg, slightly beaten. One-quarter teaspoon of salt. And 1 cup of scalded milk. Milk is considered scalded when it reaches 180 to 185 degrees, and it's got little bubbles around the edge. Then we cook it over hot water for 15 minutes. Well, this has definitely thickened up and turned into something filling-like. I have to admit, I had my doubts early on. Now we add butter. The almond flavor is coming from macaroons. The macaroons are to be dried and rolled. These macaroons came from a local Italian bakery because, once again, I do not have the time or the kitchen staff to bake my own. The macaroons, vanilla, and lemon extract. Although the recipe doesn't say to, I'm going to take this off the heat and let it cool a little bit. Now it's time to assemble the pie. There are no instructions on the recipe other than put it together with Frangipan cream. So I will assume the simplest, and that we are going to layer crust, filling, crust, filling, crust. Kind of like a Napoleon. So I'm going to put half the cream on the bottom pie crust. And spread it around. want to make sure it goes all the way to the edge so nobody is stuck with a tasteless bite. Another layer of pie crust. And the top layer of pie crust. This recipe also appears in Fanny Farmer's cookbook, A New Book of Cookery. It doesn't explain much more, but it does add that you should sift some powdered sugar onto the top of the pie. And here we have our completed Frangipan pie. Oh, I hate to cut into it, but I'm going to. I was afraid it might completely shatter when I cut into it for the first slice, but it seems to be intact. It's good. The filling is custardy. It doesn't taste particularly strongly of almonds. It actually tastes more like the lemon extract, even though that was the smallest amount of flavorings used. I was concerned because flour was one of the thickeners that it would have a floury taste, but it doesn't at all. So what I said about using cornstarch, you can just ignore that. Flour is just fine. It wasn't difficult to make. It was a little time consuming, just because I could only fit one round of pastry on a baking sheet. So it took a little while to bake all three. And the custard, the Frangipan cream, came together really easily. I think if I were to make this again, there are a few changes I would make. Instead of using crushed macaroons for the almond flavor, I would use some ground almonds and up the almond flavor in the cream. Instead of using lemon extract, I think I would use some lemon zest. The extract makes for a very strong lemon flavor, and I think zest would make for a more subtle one. And I would serve the pie with some fresh fruit on top, like raspberries, I think would be great. All in all, a successful dessert. I have no qualms about serving this to my guests this evening. Thank you for joining me, and happy cooking.